Alright, so I'm going to do this video on endurance training and the types of signaling that happen as you that occur throughout the training. So just a little brief overview. You would have your primary signaling, and then those primary signals activate secondary signals, which eventually lead to your change in responses in your body / muscles / everywhere in your body. So this is endurance training. That is a person on a bike. I'm not an artist. Forgive me. So here in the blue we have our primary signals. Here in the pink, secondary signals, and then the green, and then the burgundy, if you want to call it, are the responses. And pay attention to this guy as I go down, okay? So pretty much our three primary factors or signals that occur during endurance training are calcium, your AMP-ATP ratio, and your free radicals. So I'm going to start with calcium. It's no surprise that when you're working or exercising, you need calcium so you can contract your muscle. An increase in calcium is going to be a primary signal to endurance training. There's no crazy science behind that one. You just need more calcium when you're doing more, okay? Next you have your AMP-ATP ratio. Now as you start exercising, your muscles want to consume more ATP, so you have to increase your AMP-ATP ratio. It's not too hard. Now you're probably wondering, why would I want my free radicals as a primary response? Because free radicals are bad for us. Well, you have an increase in your free radicals is because you're using your muscles, you're producing all that crap that we don't want. But what it does is that it signals enzymes that help protect us as we're exercising, and those are under it. So I'm going to go back. So calcium, we need calcium to contract. Since we're using our muscles a long time, we need more ATP, so our ratio has to go up. And then since we're exercising for a long time, we produce more free radicals, but those free radicals introduce and produce enzymes that help protect us against those free radicals, okay? So I'm going to work my way down. So now we're at the secondary signals. We have the calcineurin, CA-MK, AMPK, P38, and NF-κB. Now they all have names for them, but I'm not the best at pronouncing words, so we're just going to stick with the abbreviations, okay? So calcium is going to do two responses for us, okay? When we have our increase in calcium, it's going to increase the response of the enzymes produced, okay? And that's the calcineurin and the CA-MK, okay? Now, what the calcineurin is going to do is going to have a couple factors. It's going to help us with fiber growth, building these fibers. So you see behind this is the muscle fiber. It's just a kind of a cool little illustration. So it's going to increase our growth of our muscle fiber. And it's also going to help with our muscle fiber shift. So you know, if you train more for endurance, you're going to have a shift from your type 2, which are your more fast, explosive fibers that you would use more for resistance training. Those type 2 fibers are going to shift to slow fibers, which would be your type 1 fibers. Your type 1 fibers have more room for oxidation. They are better for endurance training. So that's what that's going to help with. Now the calcium is also going to increase our CA-MK enzyme. And basically this enzyme is intensity related. The harder you work out, the more it's going to be produced. The less you work out, or the less intense the workout is, the less is produced. And all it's going to do is help with the production of your PGC1 alpha, and I'll get to that in a minute, okay? Now, your AMP and ATP ratio, since it's going to increase, is going to stimulate your AMPK. Now, he is an important factor because this enzyme can determine the state of energy levels. He can determine how great your body is working. So what he can do, he also then relates with the production of the PGC So he can help stimulate free fatty acid oxidation and that glucose uptake. So pretty much he can help us burn more fat. He's just a player that you don't really talk about in terms of burning your fats. So now from your free radicals, you have your two enzymes that are produced to help with the free radical protection. That's going to be your P38 and NFKB. There's not really a lot about P38, just know that it's a protective enzyme that helps with the protection of free radicals and also helps with the stimulation of PGC. Now, you're going to have your NFKB, which is going to be helping again with the free radicals, but also it's a transcriptional activator produced in contractile muscles. So as your muscles are contracting, it's producing this transcriptional activator, NFKB. All right. Don't really get caught up into the details. Just kind of know which ones are primary, which ones are secondary. Okay. Now, I have PGC1 alpha starred. Okay. A star because it's kind of the master enzyme that is produced when endurance training. This is where all the bread and butter comes from, because as you can see, this leads to the responses that we want for endurance training. Okay, so you can see that an increase in our PGC levels can lead to our fastest slow fiber type shift, which we want because since we're doing long distance, we want more of those type 1 fibers. Mitochondrial biogenesis, so it's just going to help produce more mitochondria. If we produce more mitochondria, we can burn more fats, we can store more carbs, so we can use more fat metabolism. And then a synthesis of antioxidant enzymes. Now, one response that is not up here is that it helps with capillary angiogenesis. It's pretty much just creating new capillary beds. That's what that does. It also helps with the increase in fat metabolism and glucose uptake in your muscle fibers. So I'm going to run through it again because that was pretty much it. So we have our primary signals: calcium, AMP, ATP, and free radicals. Those are our primary, 3 primary responses. Then we're going to have our calcineurin, CAMK, which are going to be responded from our calcium. Our increase in AMPK comes from our ATP-AMP ratio, and then our free radicals are going to produce our P38 and NFKB. All these secondary signals minus the calcineurin and NFKB are going to help produce the master enzyme PGC1 alpha, and then that's going to lead to our responses. So pretty much the take-home message is that endurance training helps with the production of PGC, and that will lead to our responses that we need to become a better endurance